Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another One Piece video. Today we're doing a little new something where basically I'm gonna be explaining a gameplay fundament concept that's very important when you're starting out, which is when do you go for game? And what I really noticed is that a lot of beginning and intermediate players, they struggle with this. They find it hard, and it is hard to decide, like, at what point do you try to play the control game and at what point do you actually try to close out the game. Honestly, this question requires a super in-depth answer that's almost impossible to all condense into a single video. So today I will be going over the basics, which will basically help you start out figuring this core concept of the game right. And honestly, explaining the basic concept of when you swing for game or when you try to control the game is very easy. There is 3 points that will help you decide when to do this, and then there's like a billion things to account for. Like, I will mention some of these things, but I can't really go in depth. It would require too much time. So yeah, let's start out with the 3 points. There's basically 3 points where you try to go for game. The first point is, your advantage in the game state is so overwhelming that even if you go for game and it fails, you are not put into a losing position. So let's take a quick look at this board state I have over here, which is Blackbeard on the left against Lucci on the right. As you can see, Lucci has 5 life and 6 cards in hand, which means that all of the attacks of the Blackbeard player will have to connect for the game to be over, because he has essentially 6 swings, right? He has leader, Burgess, 2 times 10 drop, and then double swing from the Dressrosa Luffy. So basically, all these swings will have to connect for the game to be closed out, and it's gonna be hard, right? Because in the end, the Lucci on the right will have 12 cards in hand after taking all the life, and 1 hit will still need to connect. And the odds of this happening, they are pretty low, right? It's basically impossible to guarantee swing for game in this position. However, it doesn't matter. In this position, it's perfectly fine to try to go for game, because even if it doesn't succeed, the Lucci player will have to discard like multiple cards from their hand to limit their own options. And even then, they only have 3 swings with leader and double spendom into 4 life. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't succeed, right? Even if you do pass back the turn to Lucci, they will do like some swings maybe. They're never going to be able to close the game. They will not even be able to like really grab back control of this game state, right? And then that's it. You can try again next turn. So this is like one of the game states where you surely will try to push for game, because even if your opponent counters all of your swings or some of your swings, you are not in an immediate position of losing. The thing, however, about this game state is it rarely tends to happen, right, where you really hide your opponent so hard that you get to this game state where you can easily go for game. However, it does happen, and this is definitely one of the game states where it will feel okay to try to push for game, and it is okay to push for game. So the second scenario where you will try to push for game is when you are for sure your game push will succeed. I mean, can't be clearer than that, right? You go for game when you're 100% sure your game push is gonna make it through. I'm gonna put up another example here. Let's take a look at it. So in this case, we have basically the Lucci on the right against Blackbeard on the left. And in this scenario, the Lucci has a 100% chance to win this game. It's because Blackbeard has no life, he has a blocker, and he has 2 cards in hand. If your opponent has, basically, depending on the amount of cards they have in hand, it's always in increments of 2k how much they can counter out, right? Because the maximum counter value you can get from 1 card, not taking into account counter events, is 2k maximum. So if your opponent has 2 cards in hand, they will be able to block a 8k swing at maximum, because they will be able to counter up to 9k. So that means in this situation, because there's a blocker, you will have to hit the leader with 9k twice, basically, to for sure win the game. And as we can see, this is possible. There is a 4k or a 4-cost drop Lucci on the field, which has 6,000 power, and then the leader has 5,000 power. So you can easily give 3 Don to the character Lucci and 4 Don to the leader Lucci, and you will be able to swing twice with 9k, which is always game. And then this is, of course, the most basic scenario, but this also works if your opponent has a life, right? Let's say the Black Blue would have a life, and there would be no blocker on the field. Then you can go for a 9k swing here with the 4-cost drop Lucci. He takes the life. That means he will have 3 cards in hand, which at maximum will have allow him to counter up to 11k. So counter out a 10k swing, and then you can just put 6 down under the leader Lucci and swing for 11, and it's still always game. And depending on how many lives your opponent has, you can just always do this math in your head, and basically you can be for sure he will go for game. However, sometimes this is very easy to judge into certain decks, but sometimes it's also harder to judge against, example, decks that play a lot of triggers. So if your opponent has like multiple life, let's say, and he's playing yellow, this can be a little bit tricky, because you have to account for certain cards that can play from the life. So it is very important to understand, or not even to understand, but to know what cards are usually played in your opponent's deck when you try to do this. But like at a basic level, this is basically how you can map out how you go for game. Now these two that I just mentioned, they are basically the easiest versions of when you can try to do a game push. The last one is probably the most important one, but it's also the hardest one. This is the hardest one to judge, and sometimes feels very weird to go for. Scenario 3 is where you have to go for game, because there is no more option to control the board, and you will lose next turn, or be shut out of your winning position for the rest of the game if you don't do it. Let's take a look at an actual example. This is not a little picture I took just to show off what I'm talking about, but this is like an actual example of a game that I played, which will actually be my Bandai Fest finals match, game 2, where I got into exactly this position. And if you already watched the game, then you know what I decided on. But yeah, let's take a look. Alright, so let's just take a quick moment to analyze this game state, right? So, just to make sure, this is my turn. I do have 10 Don available to me. And my opponent has, if I remember correctly, 5 cards in hand. He has 3 life, and his board is like a bunch of attackers, right? And he also has the Perona, which is like not a real attacker, but it kinda is. And for me, it's the same. Basically, I have 4 attackers. I have my leader, Kaku, Kaido, and Moria, and then Helmeppo is like a pseudo attacker. Like usually, don't want to be attacking with the small bodies. When you try to go for game, because they are like more expensive to invest your Don in, but depending on triggers, sometimes you have to use them. And I have 2 life, and I think I have 4 cards in hand. So here is one of those positions, right, where I have to make the decision: do I go for game here, or do I try to control the board? It is important to know that with the cards in my hand, it is possible for me to get rid of 2 characters, because I can pop like 2 of his 4-cost, the Weevils, right, with my Lucci. But I will also have to use cards from my hand. I'll just play the video while I talk over it, basically. So yeah, we can see Enrico Malia has 5 cards in hand, the Dofi player. And I'm just taking a look at the trash here. You will also see me pick up his trash at some point to go for his counters. And here I'm like, okay, so I can use, if I remember correctly, 7 Don to pop 2 of his characters. And then that means I will have to be able to counter out his swings from basically the gym base and the leader with 2 cards. And I do have potential counter cards to pick up from my life. Here I play the Tempest Kick first, because I will draw a card and that will help me make the decision. So I do have essentially enough swings to try to go for game here, and I go for a 7k swing on leader, which he takes, so he goes to 6 cards in hand. Then to go 9, this all are just like natural increments, right? Because 7, 9, 11, 13 is like ideal, basically. But I won't be able to do that if I remember correctly. And he's thinking like for a bit here, and he actually takes the hit. And here I pick up the trash to like look how many 2Ks he has in trash. And if I remember correctly, let's see if we can tell, there's like, I think 1 or 2 in there. So there's a lot of 2Ks that he potentially has in hand. And here I'm just kind of thinking, what I want to be doing, and he is on 7 cards in hand, which potentially could be like 14k counter, right? Potentially. Like the odds of it all being 2ks, very low, but it is a possibility that you have to account for. So here I'm going to be thinking a little bit more, and I'll spoil a little bit what's going to happen. What I'm going to be doing first is going to be swinging with the Moria. And then he takes the last life, and then basically what I'm left to be thinking of. So yeah, I'm going to swing 10 with the Moria, which he takes. And now I have to make the decision. I have 7 Don left, so I can go for a 12k swing into his 8 card hand. So basically, if he has 4 2ks, I lose. Because, right, if I use all my Don to swing now, he's 100% gonna game me next turn with all his swings, right? That's relatively easy, easy math. But again, I also have the option to try to get rid of both of his Weevil. And then he has like 3 real attackers and with like 1 pseudo attacker. But this Perona is actually very, very important. I'm just like literally asking him like, can you counter out this swing? It's just it's fun, right? But you will see in a minute. I make the decision to just clear up the field. That leaves me with 2 cards in hand, and him with 5k attackers and the Perona, and I will have a 2k and a 1k in hand. So I just swing 5 here. I use the leader. I reduce the, what's it called, the Weevil, and now I'm gonna use my remaining Don to try to control the game instead of go for game, which I talked about earlier. And this is actually wrong. This is not the right decision, and you will see in a minute that I actually lose the game because of it. So he counters this, of course, and then I go, I don't really remember, I go like Khalifa, pick up 2 cards, actually pick up 2k, which is nice, and the Jack, and I just discard the non-counters, right? I reduce the Weevil, and then I play out, what's his name, Spendine, to play a Lucci from the trash. Which we will be seeing here, right? I reduce the Weevil, and then we get rid of the field. It's not that important, but I won't fast forward because there's enough to talk about. So I get rid of the Weevils, and now I have 2 cards in hand. But the thing is, I was thinking if he's gonna swing for 7 first, I think, which I can counter out because I have 2k, 1k, so I can counter up to 8 basically. But the thing is, after that he can go 5 with Perona, and then go 7, 8, I think, with Jinbei leader, and I will lose the game because of this. And I could have, like, in this current turn, I could have just thought about this, and just, did the math, and then I'm like, okay, so now I have to pick up double 2k from my life to actually win the game. And the odds of that happening they're not big, right? Not very good odds for me. So, it's like I said, he just goes 7, I think about a little bit, I counter, and then he just, he closes out the game. And this is because I made a mistake in the previous turn, where I had to make the decision, control the board or go for game. And sometimes that's it, right? You can't guarantee. So he's just gonna attack and then the game's gonna be over because I lose. Right, that's, we get that. But the thing is, sometimes this is the hardest part about deciding when to go for game, is when you have to decide, okay, now there is no guarantee that I will win if I go with these swings, like last turn, right? There was no guarantee I would win the game if I swing 12 on his leader. He very possibly could have countered it out. However, there is one guarantee, that is, if I try to control the board, I am losing anyway. So this means that even if it looks super bad, like this situation didn't even look super bad, but sometimes you have to try to go for like a 6k swing into 5 cards, and that's your only win condition. Because if you actually try to like play down a character that doesn't do anything for the potential next turn that's never coming, you're always losing. And trust me, I've had so many games where I actually went like 6k, 6k into like a 7-card hand, and they both had to connect to win, and it actually happened. And you're actually going to be winning games because of this. And this is by far the hardest thing when knowing how to go for game. I hope I explained like a little bit clearly, like you get what I mean. I hope this example is like proper. I'll just let the clip play for a little bit while I do do the outro, right? You see I counter, and then he already knows, right, what the line is. I already know it now as well. Like at this point in the game, like, okay, now I have to pick up double 2k to win, and the odds of that happening are just low because I can't counter. All right. Yeah, I hope this was was insightful for you guys. With the little examples, please let me know how I can do these type of videos better, because I would like to go into more of these types of videos in the future. Leave a like, leave a comment, of course, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Would mean a lot to me. And I'll see you in the next one.